Welcome. Well, you are at home with Jim and Joy, and you are an important part of our EWTN family. And we're so happy that you've welcomed us into your home now. Today's Monday, and we want to hear from you. So today we're taking questions from you, our viewing audience. So if you're home today and you're watching the live broadcast, you know it's Monday. Give us a jingle at 1-800-221-9460. And if you're calling and you're outside North America, you can reach us at area code 205-271-2980. And you can always send us an email with your question or your comment to Jim and Joy Pinto, no, Jim and Joy at EWTN.com, or you can reach us on Twitter /Jim and Joy Pinto.
You did a great job.
Oh, yeah. So now we put out there on Facebook, right,
Yes.
on social media land, and this was the question. So you might be at home and you're thinking, I got all those phone numbers. What do I want to say to them? Can you share a unique insight into your personal encounter with Jesus in Mass or adoration?
Let's say it again. We got so many beautiful responses.
Yes.
Can you share a unique insight into your personal encounter with Jesus in the Mass and adoration? I want to just say that again, because the responses of the people that responded, it is so intimate, it's so beautiful. We were so
lovely.
blessed that they would share, you know, just what God's doing with them at Mass and at adoration. And we know that many of you have something to share.
And the beautiful thing about that is, as only God could do this, all of us, all over the world, if we're in adoration, we're at Mass, God is revealing himself to us. We are receiving him in body, blood, soul, divinity, all of that. And it's mattering. We're having a conversation. Things are changing. In the interior of our lives, things are happening. All of a sudden, we get flooded with peace or joy or maybe even a physical healing. God's doing that.
So
all the time.
Call us, email us now. We want to hear from you. Joy, before we unpack that question, people get in touch with us. We had Grandparents' Day just a few days ago with Nina Wright.
Right, Nina Francis Wright.
Yes, Nina Francis Wright, one of our 17 grandchildren.
Yes.
At St. Francis Xavier Catholic School in Mountain Brook. And it was just wonderful. She is such a doll, so beautiful. She was looking forward to it like for weeks.
She was.
That we would come on Grandparents' Day and spend some time with her. Just a beautiful, beautiful girl. And it's so good to go into their classrooms. I always want to sit at the desk. I think they get a little embarrassed because it's such a little small desk. How old is she? Like
She's 8.
8.
But
okay.
you fit.
Well, yeah. And so just to sit there, and then she shows you all the different stations that she does her work at. And there's nothing like good, solid Catholic education, especially in the classical tradition, which they're doing there at St. Francis Xavier. Because everything's about virtues. It's about history. And so it's amazing. These kids at this age are already reading ancient Greece and ancient Rome and why and so on. And so it's really, really beautiful. And then we ate lunch with her. And one of the things she wrote, I think I wrote it down someplace, but anyway, she was saying, if I were emperor, this is what I would do. And she was saying, like, there'd be no or low taxes. I thought that was great. Many people would become Catholics. Many Catholic churches. The poor would have what they need. It was just so beautiful that these kids are thinking along those lines already.
Right, so outside of themselves, it was really beautiful. We had a fun day, and you know, we've done that with our other grandchildren. It's just absolutely beautiful, and so we got to sit in the same places that we sat with Nina, and it was just a beautiful day when you get invited to be a grandparent and we can still go and be there. What an honor and a joy.
It really is, and her teacher, Miss Hayes, is so wonderful. She had the other 3 or 4 grandkids that have gone through those classes already. But just teachers, God bless you.
Yes.
I mean, she really loves the kids, really there for them. She has her own story going on, you know, with one of her children that's really very, very seriously ill. But here she is giving and blessing, a real model of the things they're learning at this Catholic school to live a virtuous life.
Right, and just as the children are waiting for their school year to come to an end, so are the teachers. We have a daughter who's a teacher, and Nate, our grandson's a principal. It's a lot, and so just pray that everyone can persevere and make it to the end of the school year.
We're going to bring Nina back probably for the Wednesday show because she made her first Holy Communion.
Yes.
So we're going to be sharing about her again. And so it's going to be a wonderful, wonderful show today. We want to hear from you and answer to the question about sharing intimacy, share about your personal encounter with Jesus in Mass and adoration. 1-800-221-9460. Plenty more to come. We'll be right back. We want to hear from you. Don't go away.
Welcome back. Well, remember, it's Monday, and today we're taking questions from you, our viewing audience. So you're home, you're watching, it's Monday, give us a jingle at 1-800-221-9460. If you're calling and you're outside North America, you can reach us at area code 205-271-2980, and you can always send us an email with your question to jimandjoy@ewtn.com, or reach us on Twitter at twitter.com/JimandJoyPinto. Question of the day is, can you share a unique insight into your personal encounter with Jesus in the Mass and adoration? So we got beautiful responses from people, didn't we?
Incredible responses. Yeah. And I did ask, I hope that he's with us, John Bragg, who is a fellow member at the Cathedral of St. Paul in Birmingham, Alabama. He's a daily communicant, and he's an adorer of the Lord. And we are part of the Eucharistic Adoration team, on the first Friday of every month. And he's supposed to be adoring the Lord, but I see John every once in a while.
Such a faithful, holy witness of a man.
He worships the Lord so beautifully. And so I said, John, are you there?
I am here. Thank you.
Okay, John, thanks so much for being at home with Jim and Joy. And I just wanted you to share for a couple of minutes just about why you do what you do and the intimacy you have with the Lord in Eucharistic adoration and at Mass.
I will do. Thanks so much. And it's really certainly been an evolutionary process. I was a Protestant brought up and converted in 1994 after I got married. And for years just went to Sunday Mass with my wife and 4 children, and I think I had a nice faith, but didn't really do a whole lot outside of that. But about 12 or 14 years ago, I started going to daily Mass as a Lenten devotion and just never stopped. As a matter of fact, my wife is a cradle Catholic. Her father joked that you better be careful because once you start going to daily Mass, you can't stop. And
Amen.
that's kind of what happened with me. So I've been a daily Mass participant for the last 12 or 14 years, and really have enjoyed when I go on the road with work, finding churches and along the way to go to daily Mass and be able to celebrate, places really all over the South and even nationally when I'm gone. And then I guess a few years ago, St. Paul started having adoration on Fridays and started doing that when available. And then I guess a few years ago, we had a pretty difficult family situation, and I remember being out of town and walked into a church, and they had an adoration chapel, and there was not only, the Eucharist there, but a just very powerful crucifix. And so really just being on my knees in that moment for probably an hour, talking, begging with Jesus, I just felt this incredible power that kind of came over me, knowing how real Jesus really was present there. And so certainly when that happened, I started to make more regular visits. There's the Our Lady of Sorrows Chapel here in Birmingham that has perpetual adoration, and it's not too far away. And started attending more regularly. And then, you read in Matthew 7 and verse 7 and 21 through 23, where, Jesus talks about never knowing you and, asking and you'd receive and seek and find and knock and the door will be open. But, don't know how you can really, get to know Jesus unless you're in his presence. And so there's just something so powerful about just being 3 or 4 or 5 feet away from our Lord.
Yes.
And so, I started going more regularly, and then I guess a couple of years ago, as all of us do, to make something a habit, there has to be discipline. I just started telling myself that I needed to go at least 3 times a week for 30 minutes or more, or otherwise you'll wake up and a month goes by. And so as that's happened, there's just been greater and greater power. I mean, sometimes I go and, read. Sometimes I go and just try to sit there quietly and listen. Sometimes I'm begging. And, almost every time, though, I'm there, I think miracles of some sort happen. You get consistent messages of just a random person that comes to mind, and so I try to reach out to them. You get answers to tough problems or questions or clarity on family situations. And sometimes you get a clear voice from Jesus. And the perseverance, I think, of it all is, and the regularity is what has just made an incredible and powerful influence on my life. And then, one of the other things when, on the hour at Our Lady of Sorrows, they, pray the Divine Mercy Chaplet.
Right.
And the closing prayer to that is just one that has also been very powerful for me. And so through all of that, it's just, it's really changed, my whole entire faith, and that's all evolved over the last several years.
John, thank you so much for
Thank
sharing
you.
such intimate and beautiful reflections on your intimacy with the Lord at Mass and in Eucharistic adoration. You've added so much to this day. God bless you. God bless your family and your intimacy with Jesus. Thank you.
So beautiful.
And as many people as there are in the Catholic Church who are availing themselves to Eucharistic adoration and are trying to press into the Lord during the Mass, you'll get story after story after story.
Oh, yes.
And what was really powerful, was so much powerful about what he said, and he's a former Protestant, he's become Catholic, and he said, there's just nothing like being 3 feet to 4 feet away from Jesus himself.
Right.
See, and that's not that we want to make all the difference between Catholic and Protestant and so on. There's so many good things in each tradition there, but that's a part of our coming home to the Catholic faith, is that Jesus said, "I'll never leave you and I'll never forsake you." And when we in the Protestant community, I always thought that meant the Holy Spirit,
Right.
which it does mean the Spirit to some degree. But he's saying, no, I'm really gonna. You're flesh people, and I will be with you in the flesh.
Yes.
Your matter matters, and I've come, I'm incarnate, and I won't leave you. And a huge part of that is the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus, at the Mass and in Eucharistic adoration, and that I'm here. And when you believe, and whether you believe it or not, he really is there, everything else pales.
Everything.
It's not that the things go away, it's not that the mountains go away, but they seem to melt before the
Right.
presence of the Lord. And that's one of the things that the Lord shares with me, is that, especially when I have concerns, and at Her Choice Birmingham Women's Center, our Crisis Pregnancy Center, and we have the tabernacle there. Christ is there in the midst of our center with thousands, 1,200 to 1,500 girls that are coming, and many of them considering abortion. And you just all asking the Lord and appealing to the Lord, maybe your own personal stuff, and it's like the Lord's there, and it's like it's all done.
Yes.
Like we're interceding for changes, but he's saying, I'm even outside of time and space. I'm in it, but it's all done. What you're thinking about is already done, and what you're concerned about is already done. The good and the evil of it, everything else, and I remain. Remain in me, and there's so much, huh?
Yeah. Well, we started also with John, and when our parish started adoration, and we signed up, and first Friday we go to Mass, and then we do the first hour from 7 to 8 every first Friday. And we do it together as a couple. And I think for us as a couple, it's been enriching.
Absolutely.
And it changes you on the interior of your life. Sometimes you can't even put into words what God is doing. But all you know is that you're different from the person that you went into, the person you came out. You can't adore the Lord for 1 hour and not come out the same. And you don't even understand all that he's doing to you, because it's a mystery. It's like, wait a minute, God Almighty, the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, is here in this monstrance, and he's looking at me and I'm looking at him, and it's just so different. It's just unbelievable.
It's great personally, but if you want a good marriage, go to confession, go to Mass, go to Eucharistic adoration, do it as a couple, don't know if you can both get in the confessional booth, but you know what I'm saying. And you'll have a good marriage. All the books written on marriage, all the teachings that we get and everything else, confess your sins,
Work the
go to the
sacraments.
Mass, go to Eucharist adoration as a couple, and your marriage will be very strong. Let's take this call.
We have Bill on the phone. Bill, welcome to At Home with Jim and Joy. Your question or your comment?
Yes, Jim and Joy, I'm glad to be with you. I'll go right into my story.
Okay.
I was sitting in the parish chapel room, small room, where Jesus was in the Blessed Sacrament, not exposed. I'm alone there with Jesus, and I got the idea. We should go for perpetual adoration. I wrote a letter to the pastor on that spot. I had writing with me. And I said in this letter, I was inspired to say, Father, unless you and until you answer this letter, only you and I will know of its existence. That was to take all the pressure off the pastor, I thought.
Right.
And I think that was inspired. Anyhow, we went through the process and got everything approved by the parish council, brought a priest in, slips in the pews, pencils to sign up. We didn't get perpetual adoration. What we got was 6 a.m. to 11 p.m., 5 days a week. We just celebrated our 18th anniversary. Thanks be to God.
There
Praise
you
the
go.
Lord.
So beautiful, Bill. Because what we did was you answered the call. You heard. You believed what you heard. You wrote it down. You went to the pastor and you said, let's just try this. And it's a miracle, right? You'd think, is anybody going to show up? How is this going to happen? And now you're celebrating your 18th year anniversary. Absolutely beautiful.
And you're bearing witness to millions about the beauty of Eucharistic adoration and about, grace builds on matter, something like that.
Yes.
It said, and the Lord wants to land on us. He wants to land on God's grace. So if you're in a parish, you want Eucharistic adoration or particular times, just lay it before the Lord, lay it before your priest, and let's see what he does.
Right, and I want to say, that's not even the end of the story, right? I mean, it could happen, right? You got 18 years, Monday to Friday, and it could happen 24. We have one parish in our diocese that has been over 25 years on perpetual adoration, which is just unbelievable.
You got an email, Joy?
His email says, my wife and I have a 3 a.m. holy hour on Wednesday morning, and it's always hard to get there, but without question, it's the best hour of our week. We are almost always there alone with Jesus in the Eucharist, and on that occasion, when someone else does come in, I kind of get put off because I want my 1 hour of our time together. We also try to attend daily Mass in the morning, and it's just set a great tone for the day, and that's Jerry. I mean, it really is. I mean, there's so many things you could do for your marriage, right? And for your own soul. Just go and be with Jesus. Maybe you don't need to go to the psychotherapist. Maybe you don't need to go to the psychiatrist. But try Jesus first. And then maybe all those other things will fall away. The problem is we do all the other things and we try Jesus last.
You might need some supplementing from other resources and counseling and so on. But I just see that couple, 3 a.m. in the morning, a little bit of a sacrifice.
That's a commitment, big commitment.
Right. But what they're doing is that they're standing there. Instead of looking at each other, we're both looking, and they're both looking at Christ. Christ is looking at them, and that's what marriage is about. That we're gazing upon Him, and as we lift ourselves up to Him, we become closer and closer and closer and closer. No conversation here, really, just looking at Him, who is our ultimate groom.
Well, and the beautiful thing that I love about what we get to do is we have the privilege of going to Mass first. So now we just received Jesus, right? So Jesus is inside of us, and we go straight from our sanctuary into our chapel, where with Jesus ever so close in our human body, we get to now see it. It's just an unbelievable recipe.
If Catholics would truly believe in the real presence of Jesus in Holy Eucharist, as someone has said, we would never leave the church. If we knew what a sacrament was, who He is, we'd never leave. Thanks so much for joining us and for sharing with us. There's plenty more to come. We'll be right back. Please don't go away.
Welcome back. Well, before we wrap up today's show, we're going to go straight to Rome to check in with Joan Lewis. Now, Joan, something big is going on with the Swiss Guard today.
Well, hi, Jim, and hi, Joy. It's so good to be with you, but quite honestly, I wish you were here with me in Rome, because later on this afternoon, just a few hours from now actually, in the beautiful San Damaso courtyard of the Apostolic Palace, 23 young men will be sworn in as new pontifical Swiss guards. This is a ceremony that goes past many centuries and also is very colorful and solemn. Now, many of the relatives and friends of the Swiss Guards have been here for days. They've partaken in some of the pre-swearing-in ceremonies. There was, for example, an audience with the Holy Father on Saturday. There have been Vespers. There was a concert. There was another Mass this morning in St. Peter's Basilica at the altar of the chair, presided over by the Archpriest of the Basilica, Cardinal Comastri. Now, May 6th is the traditional swearing-in date of the Swiss Guards, and this commemorates the sack of Rome in 1527, when 147 Swiss Guards were killed trying to defend Pope Clement VII. Now, it was only 21 years earlier, on January 22nd, 1506, that Pope Julius II founded the Swiss Guards. And by the way, to commemorate those guards who died, the 147, there was the laying of a wreath in the Vatican's courtyard, near where the Swiss Guards live, in the courtyard of the Proto-Martyrs. And by the way, one of the most interesting facts you can possibly know about the Swiss Guards, this past January 22nd, to mark the 513th anniversary, the Swiss Guards wore new black helmets, and these were made with a synthetic ASA through a 3D printer. Isn't that great news? Who would ever know these things? Now, to enroll as a Swiss Guard, you have to be Swiss, a Swiss Catholic male under the age of 30 and in good health. The Guard is a 110-member corps. They're ceremonial, but their prime responsibility is to protect the person and the residence of the Pope. Now, of course, they're expertly trained in all manners of weapons and self-defense. Now today in the courtyard, each guard will put one of his hands on the Swiss flag in front of him, and he will swear his oath in one of the 4 official languages of Switzerland. And that, of course, is Italian, German, French, and Romanche, exactly a dialect from Switzerland. So a great happy day for many, many people, but time's up. Back to you.
Joan, thanks so much sharing with us about the Swiss Guards and their history, even down to the day. And I'll tell you, those guys are for real.
They are.
Yeah, you found out about that.
I did.
Because you were,
I was casually walking.
Right, but you were going someplace you weren't supposed to go.
Yes.
And the Swiss Guard was there in his gold, yellow.
And he drew his sword.
Yeah. So, you know, you're really.
For me. What was I going to do?
So we can testify the Swiss Guards for real. But what a wonderful day today. Every day is wonderful in Jesus Christ. And I know that many of you are suffering. You're hurting in a variety of ways with physical illnesses, relationships, so many things going on. But you can feel, as one person said, and they're putting it up before me, I feel so warm and comforted when in adoration. Mm-hmm. It's a total acceptance of me. Christ is attracted to the weak, to the sick, to the ill, to those who need a Savior. Anybody need a Savior today? You may have been walking with the Lord for years and years, but I need the Savior today. In the Mass, He's there. Eucharistic adoration, He's there. In the tabernacle, He's there in a unique way. For those who've wandered away, stop, pull over, go to a Catholic church and see if you can get in there into the sanctuary, and Jesus will be there in the tabernacle. His presence is there for you. You might not remember your first Holy Communion, but Holy Communion remembers you. Christ remembers you. You may have forgotten Him. He's never forgotten you. And you can start again. You can begin again. Isn't it wonderful to be a Christian? Isn't it grand to be a Catholic? You're at home with Jim and Joy, and you're an important part of the ytsync-en family. God bless you. Bye now.